Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in our ongoing educational webinar series. My name is Robert McMillan, and I'm a digital adoption advisor with the Ontario Centre of Innovation. In today's session, we'll be talking about AI and contracts. You will be able to ask questions during this session. Please use the chat function, and we will address all the questions at the end of the session. For those of you who are not familiar with OCI, we are a private, not-for-profit that was established by the province of Ontario over 35 years ago to support small and medium enterprises in the province. We have investment funds, grant programs such as the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, known as OVIN, and our new Critical Industrial Technologies Initiative. At the heart of OCI is what we like to refer to as ROI, Return on Innovation. Today, the educational part is part of our DCC program, and the DCC program is designed to support the digital modernization of Ontario SMEs through funding support to drive the commercialization and adoption of digital technologies. These educational series are designed to provide companies insight into important issues surrounding digital adoption. I'm very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Nassira El Hadri. We're very fortunate to have Nassira with us today to provide us insight into AI and contracts. We met Nassira at a trade show a number of months ago, and she expressed her interest in supporting this program, and we greatly appreciate that she is able to share her insight on this very timely subject. At this time, I will turn it over to Nassira. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much, Rob, for this introduction. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be here today to address one of the most fascinating topics of our time. So today we will explore how businesses are dealing with AI and how AI is being applied to contracts. But before we get into it, we should acknowledge the fact that AI is constantly evolving, so changing, advancing, and learning. So the information I will share with you today is good as of today. So please keep up with the updates if this is an area of your interest. The other thing we should address is the fact that there is still a significant amount of debate about the implementation of AI. So in one extreme, we would have those that they think that AI should be introduced in everything and for everything with no limits and no restrictions. And then on the other extreme, we would have those who think we should just ban it from everything and not use it at all. So I think it's fair that you know what my position is regarding AI, so to better understand this presentation and benefit from it. As you know, I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a business owner. So as a business owner, I value time, efficiency, and productivity. So I see innovation as a crucial element to help us achieve these goals. Technology is a key driver in this process, especially AI. I do not see AI as an enemy, but as an ally. I do not think AI will replace us, but I do think that it may replace certain tasks we do and modify certain jobs. I do think that businesses must integrate AI to stay competitive in the market. But as a lawyer, I think as well as business owners, that we must understand AI, its capabilities, its limitations, its pros and cons, its potential risks and liabilities, and any other aspect of it, so we can make informed decisions when implementing it or using it. So now that you know my position, let's start. So today, what we will be covering is, we'll start with defining the context of AI. So when we're speaking about AI, we could be talking about so many things. We're going to narrow it down. Then we're going to talk about how AI is being used in business. Then we're going to be diving into the subject matter of contracts. How is AI being integrated into contracts? We will also address how is the regulation as of today. And finally, I wouldn't want you to leave this presentation without going with some recommendations, some tips you can use. And finally, we will have a Q&A. So I'm still a lawyer, so here is a disclaimer. So this presentation is for informational purposes only and is not intended as legal advice. The content provided herein reflects general guidelines and may not apply to specific circumstances. Legal matters can be complex and vary based on individual situations. If you need personalized legal advice, you can contact us at Hadri Law. So let's put it in context, because if we're talking about AI, we could be talking about a million things. Today, we're going to be talking about generative AI or Gen AI. So, which is a type of artificial intelligence that can generate new content, such as text, images, music, based on the data it has been trained on. So this is different from traditional AI, which typically analyzes and processes existing data rather than creating new content. So a few examples of this traditional AI, it would be Netflix. So Netflix will be giving you suggestions on what new movies or new series you should watch based on what you have previously watched. Amazon, what products you should be purchasing. TikTok, what videos most likely you will be interested in watching. And Spotify, what music would be of more interest to you. Another technology would be a facial recognition system. So the system already has your facial features. What it does, it only matches what it has already in the system. And my favorite would be Google Maps and Waze. I don't know how people used to do it before with only maps, because the hardest part, I think, is to find where you are. So the geolocalization, to know at that point where you are in a street. So that is also based on data that is already stored. But the greatest example of Gen AI is ChatGPT. And now we are at the version of 4.0. So I remember all the stages that ChatGPT has been going through since the implementation, and then every time with its update. And I remember when the update was that it started retrieving information from the internet, and I went crazy because I was like, this is like the next level. And every time that they make a release, it looks like we are at the next level. It's getting better and better. So you have, I'm not going to explain what it is, ChatGPT, because I think now I every time I speak with someone and we're debating something, but like, have you asked ChatGPT? Everybody knows what it is. But we have the ChatGPT, the default model, and then we can also have custom versions of ChatGPT. So I'm going to list a few interesting ones that some business owners may be interested in exploring. I encourage everyone to go and to check what's available. So there is one video GPT that it's a video maker that generates videos for social media, YouTube, Instagram. There is a logo creator. So if you're struggling with logos, you can also generate a few from there. There is mermaid chart, the diagrams and charts. There is a copywriter GPT for marketing and branding. And so it helps you come up with content. There is SciSpace that helps you with research. You would have access to papers, and it analyzes those research papers. There is Diagrams Show Me, so it gives you ideas, presentation and code, so it visualizes anything you wanted to visualize. Summarizer, so it would give you a summary of any video, book, PDF, an article, images, website, conversation, emails, code, movie, paper, report, anything you wanted. The negotiator will help you. It would be like most as a coach to understand what points you could make to make your point across and to make the other person come to the table to agree to your terms, for example. So it's more of a coaching. It cannot do the negotiation for you yet. DALL-E, this was one of the first one introduced, and I've used it in this presentation. All the images you are seeing are generated by DALL-E. I'm not like, it's good, but it's not by far the best. As you can see, there are so many things happening in the image. It doesn't keep it it doesn't keep it very simple. It makes a lot of complications in it. And even if you ask it to uncomplicate it, it doesn't do it. Like, it doesn't take as many instructions, I find. There is a tax support advisor. For example, when we are dealing with a printer and you need to troubleshoot any issues that it has, that could be helpful. Write for me. I would help you write any type of content you wanted to. And an interesting one's called Planty. Says, I'm Planty, your fun and friendly plant care assistant. So I never thought you would need an assistant to help you take care of your plants. But as someone who has killed every single plant I got as a gift, I understand why it's here too. So these are customs. So we have 3 categories. We would have the ChatGPT, and then we have custom GPTs. And now you can build your own GPT. So there is a section you go, and basically what you do is you customize your GPT. So you have ChatGPT, and now you tell it, okay, so I'm going to create a space separate from the general, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I need you to do. And it just narrows it down with your parameters. You give it as many parameters as you want. The more parameters you give it, the more specific, the better content, the better outputs it will give you. When it was first released, I think that was a long time ago. It was maybe a year ago. I tested it. So as soon as it got out, I went and I tested it. I wanted to create something. So I said, I'm going to create a legal media strategist. So I started playing with it. You go to the configure, and I told it, what I want to do here is I want to create educational social media content for law firms and lawyers in Toronto. So I want to be specific to the local law in Ontario, and it's targeted to be educational, and it has to be beneficial. So I gave it so many parameters. So now here it gives me some examples of what I could do. Draft an informative LinkedIn post on commercial law, create an educational Instagram story, suggest a Facebook post that informs about international law, content ideas for corporate law education on social media. So I tested it, and because I did not spend, honestly, I did not spend enough time building it, customizing it for my needs. I never used it really, only the time that I tested it, but it needs a lot more work. And I think the people who are in this business, for example, the legal media strategists, marketers, digital marketers, like professionals in the field, would be the most suitable people to create this customized. So I would have to hire someone that really knows about marketing to build this for me. But me as a lawyer, I'm not qualified to be able to create something like that. I need someone else with different skills. So now let's address the concept of how are businesses dealing with AI. So some of the uses that are very, I have asked other business owners and what they're doing. The first one that comes to mind is marketing. Not everyone has a marketing budget and can afford to hire a digital marketer. So what they do, they start with ChatGPT and they ask it to create content, any text, video, or images. They ask it for content ideas. So some of them they don't want to take, and you should never take, copy paste what ChatGPT tells you and post it. What they want is ideas. They're running out of ideas. And that is a use that even digital marketing specialists, they would do. They would ask ChatGPT for ideas on what to write about this or that. It could also help with some marketing strategy, SEO. So those are great tools and can be used by a business, and it should be, and it's okay. But someone who really understands about marketing would be in a much better position to provide you the maximum benefits from using ChatGPT. Another use, internal documents. So I've seen businesses drafting their training materials, surveys, and all of that, just because they can. So you as a business owner, if you were to do this, it would be fine because you will review what ChatGPT gives you. So you will give it some parameters, you will tell ChatGPT what you want it to create for you, but you would never, you as a business owner, you would never just use whatever they say. You would review it and make sure that it did the work properly. You would work as a supervisor of their work. Nobody knows your business better than you. So if you're creating a training material, you would be like, okay, is this right or not right? Is this accurate or not accurate? Same thing, if you want to do a survey, you know what questions you should ask and you should not ask. So you would supervise that. So that would be okay for you to do because it's your own business, you know what you want. The other area would be communication, and even with other languages. So it would help you draft emails. Sometimes it's very hard to maybe respond to an email. You don't know how to start it. That's the issue that every writer would have. You want to start strong, you want to have a good impact, but sometimes you don't have the words. So ChatGPT could help you come up with those, or even change the sentences that you have in an email. It's like, oh, I don't like it. It doesn't sound as good. Give me alternatives. So it can help you draft those emails, letters, announcements, and media releases. And some others as well that can help you with is with data analysis, with market research, can help you with sales pitches and proposals. It can help you with business plans, and it can convert handwritten notes into digital text. For example, like a business plan, yes, you can get something out of ChatGPT, but someone who is specializing in business plans using ChatGPT will get a much better result than you as a business owner who doesn't know what a business plan should have, for example. So now let's talk about AI for contracts specifically. So from one hand, we have the cost of legal services. And on the other one, we have the limited resources of small businesses and startups. So yes, we need, you're starting a business, but you don't have unlimited resources. And sometimes you have to prioritize resources. And sometimes you feel like, oh, I need to draft a contract and I don't have the resources for this. So you would go to ChatGPT, and I've seen that happen multiple times. Go to ChatGPT to ask to draft a contract, because ChatGPT has easy access and it's user-friendly, has a user-friendly interface, and it's accessible to everyone. It's fast. It gives it to you within seconds of what you ask it. And then it's cost effective. If you have a paid subscription, it's not that much. And if you have the free one, it's limited. By the way, even the limited one, even the paid subscription, it's limited. It says that it's like you should pay, and it's not. I am one of those people who has used ChatGPT to the point that ChatGPT sent me the message saying you can no longer use it, and it gives you like you can use it in 2 or 3 hours or something like that. Like it's a restriction because you have been working the machine so much. And I'm that kind of person who like would go and ask more questions and more, what about this, what about that, and trying to find, and maybe they get like tired of me. I'm like, okay, go get lost for 2 hours and come back later. So I asked ChatGPT, what are the types of contracts that usually people would ask AI to draft? And it gives me a list, not this one, the shareholders agreement. I added it because I wanted to address it, but it told me some employment contracts. So people have been asking for employment contracts, NDAs, service agreements, sales agreements, independent contractor agreements, partnership agreements, consulting agreements, lease agreements, and licensing agreements. So those are, according to ChatGPT, those are the most common ones. So let's ask ChatGPT. So that's what I did. I went to ChatGPT and I said about drafting contracts using ChatGPT. I said, is ChatGPT able to draft legally binding commercial agreements to be used in Ontario, Canada? I always try to say Ontario, Canada, because I don't want it to give me information about any other jurisdiction. So I said, ChatGPT can provide guidance and templates for commercial agreements, but it cannot draft legally binding documents. It's recommended to have any agreement revised and finalized by a qualified lawyer to ensure it meets legal requirements in Ontario. Then I asked it, if ChatGPT drafts a commercial agreement, what could go wrong? And it says, well, if ChatGPT drafts a commercial agreement, potential issues include missing critical legal provisions, non-compliance with local laws, ambiguous terms, and unenforceable clauses. These issues could lead to disputes, financial loss, or legal challenges. Always have agreements reviewed by a qualified lawyer. And then I asked it, if I use a contract drafted by ChatGPT that causes me financial loss, do I have a recourse against ChatGPT? And it says, no, you do not have a recourse against ChatGPT for financial losses caused by using its drafted contracts. ChatGPT's outputs are for informational purposes only and not a substitute for professional legal advice. Always consult a qualified lawyer for legally binding documents. So I had to ask ChatGPT because I would tell you this and it would sound like self-serving because I'm a lawyer. But I asked ChatGPT and that is their answer, so we agree. So what is ChatGPT's approach? Its approach is like, okay, you can come to ChatGPT and you can use it to draft a contract that would be a template. You can draft it. You can ask me to draft it, I will draft it. But you always need to have a lawyer review the contract. So even if I am doing the drafting, you need to have it reviewed by a lawyer. And that is how they avoid liability, because they never would tell you, here it is, go use it. They say, you want a contract, I'll get it for you. But I am not giving you the final product. I'm giving you the starting point. So if anything goes wrong, I am not the one. And then if you send it to a lawyer and the lawyer reviews it, if anything were to go wrong with that contract, then you cannot go back to ChatGPT because a lawyer was the last person to review it. It was the person who gave the okay. So then it's like it's the lawyer's product. So now let's address some considerations. So knowing all what we know right now with the use of ChatGPT. So it's clear that ChatGPT is not designed for legal services. It has a generic, a more broad use. But as I said, it depends. You can get the most out of it if you are in that industry. So if you are a digital marketer, you can get great content out there better than someone who doesn't have that background. Lawyers, we have our own, it's in the works, and there are tools out there that they help you draft contracts that are outside of ChatGPT. But even with ChatGPT, you can still leverage it to help you with some clauses, because you can fact check, you can review whether what it's giving you is right or wrong. If you are someone who doesn't know whether what's giving you is right or wrong, then it's like you cannot rely on it. You don't know what risk you're taking. So commercial relationships, as you know, if you're a business owner, you know that they can be too complex to capture at this stage where AI is right now, Gen AI is. It's very hard to capture. It cannot give you all that information that you need. It won't ask you all the questions you need to answer. And it has inaccuracies, inconsistencies, and even hallucinations. You always have to fact check what it gives you. So I went to OpenAI privacy policy and I asked it. I saw that they had a note about accuracy. So it says that services like ChatGPT generate responses by reading a user's request and in response, predicting the words most likely to appear next. In some cases, the words most likely to appear next may not be the most factually accurate. For this reason, you should not rely on the factual accuracy of output from our model. So they are disclosing it in very small letters. In a privacy policy, you do have to go and find that there are inaccuracies, and the facts that it provides, it may be wrong. So we have actually two examples of hallucinations. That one is a trending one. Of two lawyers, one in Canada and another in the US, that they used ChatGPT to draft some court documents. Specifically, they asked ChatGPT to provide some precedents to use in court to advance their claim. So ChatGPT did comply. It provided them with precedents, but they ended up being fake. The problem is that these lawyers, they did not check whether they were real, and even whether the interpretation that ChatGPT made out of that case was accurate or not. was it really beneficial? Even if that case was real, was it really beneficial to your client or not? Because can you imagine you go with a case and then it's not the legal theory on that precedent, it's contrary to your client's goal. So now you have put your client at a much worse situation. So one of the lawyers did ask ChatGPT, I'm going to be using this in court, so they must be real. They have to be real. Please confirm, are these real? And ChatGPT said, yes, they are real. So, and the lawyer went with that. So they are still, like, we're gonna see more cases, unfortunately, of this, but I believe, like, with more education, we're gonna be able to control it. So another consideration is that the output is as good as the input, the prompts. So there is a whole business out of people coming up with prompts on how to better get the best out of ChatGPT. And you would be good, you are good with prompts. You have to know writing, you have to know how to express yourself, but you have to know the industry. You need to know what you're talking about, to know what answers, what questions you need to ask it. It's not only what you expect to get, but it's what questions do I need to answer? What are the right questions I need to put? Another one is the lack of confidentiality. So there is obviously no solicitor-client privilege. So if you are, as we're saying, as I just said, that the more information you give to ChatGPT, the more accurate their output is going to be to you. So you have to give it a lot of information, but all the information you give to ChatGPT is at risk. So there is no confidentiality. So as opposed to when you are working with a lawyer, that you have solicitor-client privilege and it's confidential information. In here, they had data, they had security breach, OpenAI, and was, I think, in March of this year, and people were able to access your chats. So as you know, when you go and you ask ChatGPT something and you start a new chat, and they get stored, there is an option to not have them stored, but if you do have them stored, some people, they had their chats exposed to other people. There is a lack of accountability or regulatory oversight. Nothing, as you said, as we have seen, there is no accountability. They just give you the information. There is the risk of non-compliance. So whatever you get from ChatGPT, it may be against the law, or it's not complying with the law of the jurisdiction you are in, or the country. It may not even be fit for the industry you're working in. And then you are compromising enforceability. Maybe whatever you create is not even enforceable. And the big one is the financial loss. That is the one that you need to take into consideration. The loss of business opportunities, that is an interesting one, because if I've seen people relying on ChatGPT, dealing with the other party, with the contracts that they drafted from ChatGPT, and it was clear that this business did not take the time or did not invest in having a legal professional looking into their contracts. They just went to the easy way and they generated them automatically, and they wanted to get an investor invest. So that investor was not happy with the result, because if you're not taking seriously your business, you're not investing enough capital in your business to so it's secure, then how am I going to give you my money to put in your business? So some people would not want to do business with you if they see you are not, you are relying solely on AI, for example. The other one is the cost of litigation of disputes. If anything were to go wrong and someone were to sue you, that is another issue that you would encounter. You may have saved some money by having ChatGPT draft your agreement, but the cost of litigation, you will pay that maybe 100 times what you were supposed to pay in the first place. And the thing about this, like I always say this, you can have a contract in place and nothing happens. If nothing happens, you're good. The problem is if anything were to happen. It's like insurance. You buy it. If nothing happens, it's there. But if you don't buy it, it's okay. But the day you don't have it and you need it, that's the day you pay the price. So now let's ask ChatGPT again. So I told ChatGPT, I'm a small business owner operating in Ontario, Canada, and I asked to draft a legally binding employment agreement for the role of administrative assistant. So I'm giving it the role, the jurisdiction, and I'm telling it specifically, it has to be legally binding. And it says creating a legally binding employment agreement involves including all necessary terms and conditions to protect both the employer and the employee. As you can see, the first thing you see here is that ChatGPT is being like neutral. It's for both sides. A lawyer will ask you, it would be more strategic about like if I'm doing this agreement from an employer side, what is the plan here? What are your goals? What do you expect from this? As opposed to here, you don't get any strategy, it gives you like a more neutral. So then what I did, I like playing with ChatGPT. I went and I started a new chat immediately after, and I asked it, why would the following employment agreement not be enforceable in Ontario? So I took the product that it gave me from the previous chat, I copied it in its entirety, and I pasted in a new chat. And this is the answer that it gave me. The employment agreement provided may not be enforceable in Ontario for several reasons. So basically, ChatGPT gave me an agreement that was supposed to be legally binding, but then it contradicts itself when I give it the same product it gave me and asking it, well, would now this be enforceable? And it says, well, no, it gave me a list of items that were missing or were not accurate. So they gave me, like, I just put the first one, for example, probationary period clause. It says that the issue is that the clause is stating that the employer may terminate the employee's employment without notice or cause during the probationary period, may not comply with Ontario's Employment Standards Act. So that's one of the things from the bat. I looked at the agreement. I was like, there is no mention to the ESA. So then it says the explanation is like under the ESA, even during a probationary period, employees may be entitled to notice of termination or pay in lieu of notice, depending on the length of employment. Additionally, the ESA requires employers to provide notice or pay in lieu thereof after 3 months of continuous employment. So not very impressed, right? So then I asked ChatGPT about the different contracts. So this one, the shareholders agreement. That's why I inserted it there, because I wanted to address this one in particular. So I told it, we are 2 shareholders at X, Y, and Z Inc., a corporation incorporated under the laws of the province of Ontario. We each hold 100 common shares at the price of $1 per share. My name is individual 1, and the other shareholder's name is individual 2. We both reside in Toronto, Ontario. Draft a legally binding shareholders agreement. So then it gave me a shareholders agreement. We usually would have a shareholders agreement that goes between 40 to 65 pages. It's a very strategic document. So it came up with maybe like 3-5 pages max. And these are the points that it addressed, but it did not address them. It did not address all the points that it should or it could have addressed. So it addressed the shares and shareholding, like what kind of shares we have and who holds what, the management control of the company, who are the directors, the voting rights, the share of transfer, who can buy and how can you transfer shares from one party to another, the dividends, how to distribute them, the meetings to be held, what happens if there is a dispute, how do we resolve it, and then the general clauses like confidentiality, amendments, governing law, entire agreement, and execution. So it didn't ask me. So when I asked it to provide this, it didn't ask me for questions that would help it to draft a better agreement. It just provided me with what I asked her. It didn't ask me what is my business activity, in what industry do I work, what are my goals, whether for how long I plan on working on this business, if I'm planning on retiring soon, if I'm planning on buying the business from the other shareholder at some point, how many directors the company has, or whether someone who is not a shareholder will be acting as a director, whether they expect to have more shareholders in the future. So it didn't ask me any of that. So it didn't provide provisions, for example, that deal with whether shareholders should be required to provide additional capital when needed, whether shareholder loans were permitted and whether they will bear interest. There was no non-compete and non-solicitation clauses. It didn't ask me whether shareholders should be required to present to the other shareholders opportunities of investment for the corporation. It didn't address, it did address like the right of first refusal, but it didn't provide me options for the piggyback rights, drag along, buy, sell, put and call, shotgun. It gave like the most generic, but this is such a strategic agreement that the most generic one, it just won't cut it. It won't play the way how you may want it to play. So having looked into what are the risks, what are the issues with using AI for contracts, there are some uses that I do recommend using AI for. So I think AI should be your assistant. So it's there to help you. It's a tool you should use to your advantage. So you should be at the top. You should be the supervisor, the manager, and the AI should be your assistant. You are supervising everything that it does, and it's there to help you make your business better, being more productive, save time, but never compromising your integrity, the security, and your finance, and never putting you at risk. So one of the uses you can have is prepare before meeting with your lawyer. It's a good one. So for example, let's take the example of drafting a shareholders agreement. Before meeting with your lawyer, you ask ChatGPT, always thinking you should not be sharing too much like personal data with it. But telling ChatGPT, I'm going to be meeting with my lawyer about this and that. What questions should I ask my lawyer? And what is my lawyer going to ask me? Just anticipating those questions, and so you can prepare those answers. So then when you meet with your lawyer, you are in a much better position, and that meeting is much more productive. Another use is understand legalese. There has been like a huge movement that refrains us from using legalese. We should be using language that our clients understand. They should not be struggling to understand something that we put in their contract for their benefit. So sometimes you can still find legalese. So what you do is you want to understand that, you can ask ChatGPT to give you a definition of that. I think ChatGPT is a great dictionary because it gives you like the definition, and you can ask it to give you examples and synonyms and everything like in a very flow manner. It can also help you understand the legal implications of a clause. You give it a clause and you ask it, what is this? Like, what does it mean for me and for my business if I agree to this? And at the same time, identify potential risks. Like, what is the risk of me accepting this? What could go wrong here? And again, this is information for you to have to then discuss with your lawyer, as opposed to act on it. Because ChatGPT could be wrong about that interpretation. Just because you're giving it a clause, you're not giving it the whole contract, or even if you're giving it the whole contract. But if you're not, the ChatGPT doesn't know whether that clause is being restricted by another, for example. Another use is to clarify the clause. Sometimes we have paragraphs and it's like a huge sentence, and you don't understand when an idea starts and when it finishes, and you struggle with it. So you can ask ChatGPT, okay, explain to me, what is this? What does it mean, to have an idea of what is the meaning of that clause. You can summarize contracts. For example, if someone comes with a proposal and says, oh, this is what I would like to propose to you, this is a contract I want you to look into, just as a glance, instead of like reading like maybe the 30 pages, you ask ChatGPT, can you summarize this, just for you to know whether it's even worth it to look into it or not. But you have to give it more parameters, as opposed to like just analyze it, because it will make its own thinking. But instead you tell it, highlight, for example, this is what I'm concerned about liability, about risks. This is what I would like you to highlight. Another use would be to compare different versions of the same contract to track changes. We have that capability with Adobe, and we have it with Word, but in those, it just gives you what it is. It marks them, but with ChatGPT, it tells you exactly where they are. It explains them to you. And it's great to gather ideas in which terms you could negotiate and how to negotiate them. So for example, if you have a contract and you're like, oh, I would like to negotiate some terms, which one can I negotiate? It could give you some ideas on how to negotiate it too. And finally, translate to English or any other language. This is an example. So if you're doing business with foreign parties, non-English speaking parties, what you could do is you could communicate in their language. So if it's a new market and you don't want to invest first in having someone to communicate with them in that language, you could explore the market by being able to translate any communication to them to just explore whether that relationship could go somewhere. It can help you understand the business cultural differences. So you're ready to do business there. Can translate the contract to English. So when they sent it to you, they want you to look into it. Before you engage your lawyer, you could just translate it to English for you to have an idea, to know whether it's even worth pursuing it, whether it's worth talking to your lawyer about it or not. Maybe you read it and like, oh, this, I don't like this. You can ask it whether these are common clauses in that country for that industry. But again, the inaccuracies could be there. So use it with caution. Ask whether the terms are commercially reasonable as well, and ask about the potential risks and legal implication of a particular clause, as we discussed before. Can do all of those. And finally, we're going to do AI regulation. We're going to just go through it quickly. I want to have a time for questions. So the concerns that we have, and that's why AI regulation is a big debate, is because we're concerned about privacy and data protection. We're feeding, as we said, like we have to give it a lot of information to get better content. But the problem is, where does that information go? Who has access to it? So it's at risk. As of right now, really, nobody really knows what could happen with it. There is discrimination and bias because these are, ChatGPT is a language machine that is programmed by someone that it has been proven that it discriminates against certain groups or even gender, and then it has bias. And then the other concern is safety and accountability. Is the information we give it, it's safe, and who is accountable if anything were to go wrong? So in Canada, what we have is the Voluntary Code of Conduct on the Responsible Development and Management of Advanced Generative AI Systems. It was implemented by the Government of Canada on September 2023. And what we have in the works, but it's voluntary, some businesses they would sign up on. But what we have in the works is something called the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act. That is part of the update that we will have on the PIPEDA, the Privacy Act. And it was it was started on June 2027, 2022, maybe on 2027 we'll get approved, maybe. So it's still in the works. There is so much debate about it as to whether they should approve they should pass the Privacy Act by itself and leave this one for later, because apparently nobody can agree. And what they want to do is they want to regulate, what it would do is regulate high impact AI systems, ensure transparency and accountability, mitigate bias and discrimination, protect privacy, and implement risk management. So the recommendations that I don't want to finish this presentation without giving you, so you take something with you as well. I encourage you to embrace AI and its implementation for sure. I think it's positive. Explore and learn how AI can be an assistant to you and to your business. Put it to work for you, for your business. Use AI to stay informed and to broaden your knowledge. I think like now, all that information, it's right there. Everybody can have access to it. Use AI, keep it in mind, its limitations and the potential risks and liabilities. This is a very important one. Do not rely solely on AI to make legal, financial, or investment decisions. Leave these, when you have to make these decisions, leave them to the professionals in the field, and follow the latest legal updates on AI to stay compliant, because first of all, AI is constantly evolving, but at the same time, like legally, there have been implementations to regulate it. So the minute it will be regulated, you should know what's regulated and how does it impact your business. And then, for example, in the health industry, there is already a regulation. I think we will have regulation by industry faster than having like a big, like an overarching bill or act. So do not share personal data, real names, address, email, situations. As you saw when I gave it the instructions to draft the shareholders agreement, I told her I was shareholder 1 and the other person was shareholder 2, or individual 1, individual 2, because we don't know what's going to happen with that. And then you as a business owner, you have to make business decisions all the time. And this is one of them. How do you use AI? How do you use ChatGPT? And you have to keep in mind, maybe one factor is the dollar value of the transaction you are dealing with, whether it's justifies having a lawyer looking into it, or can you just go by using AI for it. But always take into consideration that regardless of the value of the contract, sometimes you may have a higher amount when it comes to damages. So you also have to take into consideration the potential damages amount. So even if the contract is small, it's a couple of $1,000s, and you're like, it doesn't, like, it's not worth it for me to get legal advice. But if something were to go wrong, you could be sued and had to pay millions of dollars, then that is a business decision you have to make. And it's risk management. It's what you already do. So it's one more thing you have to put in your plate to see how to use it to your benefit. You have to take into consideration the financial and your reputation. Very important here. I wanted to give some time for Q&A. So it's been a pleasure explaining this. We're going through this, and I'm looking forward to know what do you think. If you have any thoughts, I would like to know, and if you have any questions. And of course, you can contact me. I leave here my contact information if you have more specific questions.
Thank you very much, Nassira. That was very informative. So as we all know, we hear about ChatGPT and AI on a daily basis, and it was great to get some really good insight into that. I think you did an excellent job explaining, so we don't have a lot of questions. But one we do have is, do you think there are data protection issues even with ChatGPT's paid model?
I'm not aware that there is a difference in terms of protection. So they would be using the same database. I don't think they're using a different way of storing data for a non-paid to a paid. It just gives you like different capabilities on what you can do. For example, I remember when we started using the third version. A few days ago, I tried to use it again. And it was so bad. It was so bad. Like, I cannot believe how impressed I was by version 3, because now with version 4.0, like, it's crazy. So that is the only difference, is what you get. But I think the input you give it, the information you give it, is still goes through the same policy. So the same protections would still apply.
Great, thank you. So I would ask, in your day-to-day business, are you seeing contracts that have been obviously drafted by ChatGPT and not, vetted on the legal side, and people feel that's sufficient?
Yes, I've actually had a couple instances that I've seen the product and I'm like, this is ChatGPT. Like, I know, like, we know, like, it's like content. When you see content that is written by ChatGPT, and I tend to ask, how did you get this contract? So, and before ChatGPT, we also had like templates online. And those templates were even worse. Like, those templates were worse than ChatGPT. So I think we are like a step doing better, just because now you no longer see the governing law of this contract is the state of Delaware. We no longer have that, because now ChatGPT is smart enough to say, okay, it's a Canadian contract. So let's say Ontario, let's say Canada. So yeah, those are like the differences. But I had also an instance where small business owner bragged about no longer needing to discuss his contracts with a lawyer, because he would just draft them with ChatGPT, and it was like, it does an amazing job. But I had to tell him, you don't know whether it's amazing or not, just because you don't know whether what it's giving you it meets the standards. And at the same time, you're good until something goes wrong. If nothing goes wrong and you have that contract, you never have to pull it. But the day you have to pull it, then we may have to have this conversation again.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like your, sort of the overall suggestion that it's a great product really to augment what you do or what you're trying to do, as opposed to replace it. And I think a lot of people, as you kind of mentioned at the first, are looking, because of a lot of the hype, they're hearing that, AI in general is going to replace all these things, but really as a tool to augment capabilities and processes. Then I think that's really where the sort of sweet spot for the product is going to be.
Yeah, it makes us better. Like, that's why I don't like, I am for it, just because it's you working, but you with AI, you can do much more with that. But again, it's always about, you have to know the answer to what ChatGPT is going to give you. You need to know what you're talking about. Otherwise, how are you? Yeah, you're not going to know whether that's right or wrong. That is, I think, the thing that we struggle with the most, because any information it gives you, and even myself, when I use it for something that it's not, like I just need some information about something that I'm not familiar with, I would never rely on that. I just go and I Google it again, find the sources, go and it would give you like a starting point to start the research, for example.
Great. Well, I think about wraps it up. I will have to say that the most difficult part of using an old paper map is refolding it to get it back into the way it was before. So if they would have solved that issue, maps may still be around. So
yes.
Again, thank you very much for the presentation. Really informative. It's the second presentation you've done for us. We really appreciate it, how much you've supported this program. For those of you on the line, we do have some other information, but to let you know that this program has been recorded, as has the previous sessions on all these educational webinars that are available on our website. So Nassira, thank you very much again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Webinars are just part of an overall program we have to provide information and support on for companies adopting technologies. If you go to our website, we have now 3 workbooks that are available. You can download them at no cost. One on digital transformation, really what to look for, what to expect when you're looking to adopt new technologies. Cybersecurity workbook, because cybersecurity is obviously at the forefront of everybody's minds these days. And as well, we just released the workforce change management. So everybody is familiar with adopting technology, but really that's also a change in management and change in the people that are using the technologies. And this is really to help you support that as well. If you go to our website, this is where you can find these workbooks. And again, there's a number of resources there as well, recordings of past webinars, and as well as information on technology in general, as well as information on all our other programs that we have. Lastly, I did mention at the start that we've launched a new program called Critical Industrial Technologies, which looks to support the agri-food, advanced manufacturing, construction, and mining sectors. I would invite you to log on and register for that upcoming information session on July 10th. So that wraps up today's session. And again, thank you everybody for attending, and a special thank you to Nassira for an excellent presentation. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.